Hello, good evening, and welcome. I'm John Lazarus with Stories Matter and D&E Publishing. Plot holes. They're the biggest crime a fiction writer can commit, except for all the real crimes they commit. And for a writer, plot holes are the biggest source of worry we have, except for the worry of someone finding the evidence you left behind from your real crimes, or that you'll somehow contradict your alibi in your writing or interviews or YouTube videos by accident. However, there are a lot of common misunderstandings about what actually constitutes a plot hole. I can't tell you how many times at book readings and book signings I've gotten into arguments and shouting matches and struggles that involve pulling hair over what readers thought was a plot hole in one of my stories. For example, plot holes are not characters acting stupidly or illogically. The scientists acting like dumbasses in Prometheus isn't a plot hole. I mean, I'm basically a writing scientist, and even I make dumb decisions. Like when I tried to make D&E Publishing a nonprofit organization because I thought it would mean we wouldn't have to pay taxes. Plot holes are also not unanswered questions. Authors aren't obligated to explain everything. In the film version of Raymond Chandler's The Big Sleep, it's never said who actually killed Sean Regan. In Pulp Fiction, we never know what's in the briefcase. In my novel, Lone Mountain, we never discover where our hero Cold Action got the Comanche skull that he talks to throughout most of the story, or why it's child-sized. Finally, it's also not an obvious solution that the characters didn't think of. Sure, characters that travel through time and stories shouldn't go back to 10 minutes before the bad thing happens, but instead hours, days, or weeks in advance. In my story, The Things We Lost, if the new baby was going to be such a strain on the character's marriage, why didn't the character simply pull out early and blow his load all over the female's stomach? But remember, characters don't always have perfect knowledge. They're flawed and bad at planning, and they hate the way condoms feel, just like us. So what is a plot hole then? Well, it's an inconsistency that breaks the rules, logic, or timeline in the story you've established. And just like a jealous wife or the IRS, your reader will be relentless in pointing out those inconsistencies if you commit them. We'll get good at explaining our lies on this edition of Stories Matter. Today's video is brought to you by Pilot. As a small business owner, there were a lot of things I wish I knew before I started. If you're like me, you have a lot of big ideas and ambitious plans, but you get bogged down by filing W-2s, and finding affordable office space, and having long conversations with the Department of Labor about why locking your employees inside the building to pull an all-nighter against their will is technically a form of kidnapping. Fortunately, Pilot makes things easy. They can automate your monthly financial reports and handle your accounting so you can focus on the creative side of your business and think of ways to make sexual harassment training both informative and fun. Go to pilot.com for more information. Common plot hole 1. Characters acting in a way they shouldn't. I'm starting with one that's a bit of a gray area, but that's because I've always strived for nuance on this channel. The thing is, storytelling is all about character transformations. Growth is what makes our characters compelling, and that connects us to the changes we make in real life. When my wife Cindy left me, I understood that we had grown apart, accepted it, and moved on with my life. However, characters who suddenly do a complete 180 just to serve the plot line is what readers hate. One example is Breaking Bad's Mike Ehrmantraut, who abandons his granddaughter in the park when he knows the DEA is onto him. This rang false to a lot of fans. And as someone who loves their children and knows all of their names, I would never do something like this. Common plot hole 2. Breaking the laws, rules, or background that you previously established. The bond between an author and a reader is sacred. This is why I'm always willing to listen to fan theories about my work, no matter how ridiculous. In Stephen King's Salem's Lot, one vampire is able to break into a house and kill 2 people, even though it is already established that vampires need to be invited into your home in this universe. Now, I usually don't like to mention my own work on this channel, but just to show that I'm being respectful toward other authors, I will mention Out of the Woodwork, a story I wrote about an alternate reality where metal doesn't exist and all technology is made out of wood. Anyway, the story ends with the protagonist killing the main villain with a pistol. Some readers felt like this was a cheat. Common plot hole 2. Continuity errors. These are minor discrepancies from one part of the story to the next. Individually, they may not matter much, but if you have several of them, they may hurt your chances of being published. When I started D&E publishing in 2012, we had many authors clamoring to get published by us. If you watch this video, you'll know the story of Evan Hayward. He was a great writer, even though not many people at our company liked him. Anyway, Evan's debut novel, A Story Told by an Idiot, had the characters being chased by a black sedan. But later in the scene, he described the vehicle as charcoal. It was then that Evan and I mutually decided it would be best if we went our separate ways, and nobody put anything in anyone's gas tank to retaliate. So, how can we avoid making these mistakes in the first place? Fix 1. Outline before you start writing. I've always said that a writer should plan ahead. Frantically pulling a perfect book out of thin air while using a dangerous mix of amphetamines to fight off sleep deprivation never got anyone anywhere. Fix number 2. Look for characters who serve no purpose. Because character inconsistency is a common plot hole, just eliminate characters that aren't necessary. This has helped me immensely to avoid plot holes, and also why none of my books passed the Bechdel test. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll leave you with this week's This Day in Literary History. See you on the next one.